Hey guys, welcome to the podcast, The Insecure Overachiever, with your host, Jason Suarez. I'm interviewing Hugo today. Could you just please introduce yourself to the audience a little bit?
So Hugo used to be a mentor of mentors in an online school, and now trying to be like a happy human, good human.
So I've known you for a year now, and we've been good friends. You're one of the first people to inspire me to do my own thing with the newsletter, especially on Substack, write for myself, and have confidence doing it. You started Le Chemin back, at least your oldest newsletter I have here was the 29th of October 2022. Is that correct?
It is.
What inspired you to start that off?
Well, thank you for the good words. What inspired me? I guess at this point in my life, I needed to be involved in new project. I needed to create. I guess I knew since few months that I really like to write, and that was like meeting someone, reading a newsletter, like having different conversation. At some point, I was like, I'm gonna write about like mainly human and happiness and how do we manage to go through what's going on in our life, like on the individual level, but also more global one, seeing what's happening right now.
Okay. I mean, I started writing for myself. You also started maybe writing on a journal and a thing. What made it like, I want to publish it for people to see? You have quite a few followers. I think you have 283 followers on Substack.
You know better than me, I'm sure.
Checked it. So it's not a small following. What made you put it out there for people to see, and what's been the journey of, I don't know, attracting people to what you write and what you decide to share?
I mean, that's tough to decide to share this because like there are many texts that are very personal. Like I'm talking about feelings or past experiences that I may not even have shared with all my friends when they happen or after that. But there was like this kind of repeating feeling that every time that I had a conversation with someone about those topics about like, I don't know, it can be breakup and like, or what you want to do in your life. Like, okay, we have like classic life, entering a job and like pushing to like have a good position and like good income, whatever. But also like this call for like more nature and a bit more individual decision making. It's like always all those topics about like big question of life. It was like super interesting talks, and I left the place where I had those like feeling better, feeling good, and feeling like okay, we still have a lot to do, but we can do it. We can have like nice moment, create connections. Like it felt good after that. So I was like, okay, let's just start writing about it. And at some point, if just one person is reading it and like questioning herself differently than before, or even like being like, no, I don't believe about what Hugo is saying, but it made her more sure about what she thinks, like maybe the opposite way. Like it was worth it sharing it. So that was the main point, being like, maybe if I share this, going to be useful to one person, so it's better to share it than keeping it for myself.
Okay, I like that a lot. Okay, so diving a little bit more into that, I find it hard sometimes to read perfectly your newsletter because it's in French. And I'd love to understand it in your words of expressing in your language that you're comfortable with. But I did at least notice, like, you have common topics, but you seem to write whichever feels comfortable to you. I was curious what the process for the selection of your content in your newsletter is. For example, you change sometimes, you talk about personal journeys, sometimes you talk about films that you watched and impressions that are left with you. Sometimes you talk about certain friends, sometimes you talk about entrepreneurship, sometimes you talk about or like create polls that people respond to. So it's a wide variety of topics, it's a wide variety of content, and no two newsletters that you write are ever the same. I've noticed that. And I like that a lot, considering the fact that it's very easy to be like, okay, every week I'm gonna write exactly the same format. I'm quite that kind of person, I have to admit. I'd love to write freely, but I like a certain, at least, format. You seem to break that a little bit. Take me a little bit into your headspace and your mind when you think of what you're going to write about.
I think like there are maybe two answers, two parts in the answers. Like first one would be that I'm talking about like between humans trying to like go through it in the best way they can, like live happily, like be like having nice connection. This is a very complex situation, so I cannot just talk about it with like very one specific way of doing it. At least the way I do it, like it is super complex. So sometimes I would go like left and right and do this, and like many things can cross into this area of how do I do to live a happy and harmonious life. So that's why there are like so many topics. And then regarding the ID selection, I'm definitely not choosing a topic and then writing about it. Like I don't have, at least I didn't take the habit. I don't know if I don't have the skill. Like I didn't take this habit, and my like creating process is a bit more that I'm gonna read some books, I'm gonna listen to some podcasts, I'm gonna have conversation with you, with friends, and like through this moment, you've got like ideas like nourishing your brain, and most of the time, it will like two options. Either I'm like falling asleep or waking up, either I'm walking, but that's the moment I have like ideas connecting together, and so I'm like, and like that's the battle between like, okay, do I wake up and indeed take my mobile to write those ideas connecting together? Is there sometimes I don't, I just fall asleep again and maybe I'll miss a super nice text. But I have like those moments where like ideas connect, so I like take it a bit roughly on my iPhone, and then I would like put everything on my computer, and at some more conscious moments, be like, okay, how do I write this? What are the anecdotes and the information that are useful? Is there something more that I can use to nourish like the reflection and the direction of the text? But yeah, mainly like this. So I'm more focusing on like keep being curious, listening to people, podcasts, reading books, than the fact of writing itself, of having ideas, because I know it will come this way for me.
So it's very inspiration based
Yeah,
in the moment.
definitely.
Okay. So you
and
jot
sometimes
down
it's like sometimes then I look back at it and I'm like, no, definitely I won't write about it in a serious way. But that's the way like most of the texts come out, like the main connection between ideas.
Okay. Okay. I think that's really good. And I find that inspiration is very key to writing too. But it's very easy to lose those moments. You talked about it, like being tired or just not being able, I don't know, maybe sometimes you're at work, you just jot down a rough draft, right? How can somebody who feels like they're inspired all the time, or not all the time, but in certain moments, capitalize on those moments and use them to the fullest? If you're understanding what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I don't know if it's possible to capitalize. I guess maybe it is in a way that if you create a habit around that, I don't know if like every morning, like you wake up, you do your little whatever, and then you go for like a 30-minute walk, maybe you're gonna get used to this like walk without music, without whatever, and like that's a moment you will like dedicate to, okay, creating the space to have ideas. But it is impossible, I would say, like to capitalize or systematize like the fact of having ideas, because like we do not control fully like unconscious and whatever, but you control what's coming before. So indeed, like I mean, if you have ideas while falling asleep, probably you go to sleep every day, so you have this like little window every day, and if you go to work every day, you have it also. So I would say more focus on when it happened, to make those moments happen more often or at specific time, more than saying, okay, every time that I feel something I need to react, because yeah, at some point you also have your real life, like present life. If you're like having a beer with friends, maybe it's not the moment to leave and like write what you were thinking about. Like maybe you can do it later.
Right.
Well, it depends how you deal with your friends, but maybe it's not the right timing always.
Okay, that's fair. I do agree with that. I think it's key to like identify the patterns that your mind follows. For example, certain activities I notice that, okay, in sequence to doing this, I find myself more self-aware. I find myself in deeper thought, more creative, or more able to express myself. You know, maybe some people do meditation or certain activities. It can be sports, it could be cooking, for example, and you feel that creative expression in what you do, and then you're like, okay, I have ideas to share, whether you decide to film yourself and do videos online or you decide to write it down, right? Last question on this topic would be, as I said, you helped me through my journey of starting the newsletter and having the confidence to just put it out there and be like, nobody cares. But to the audience, maybe somebody in the audience who's like, okay, that's interesting. I like what he's talking about. I like what he strives for in his newsletter. And they want to build their own one. What would be some key points that you would share with them on at least the start of their journey? And if you have any points for the later part of their journey, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I would say at the beginning of the journey, it doesn't have to be like marketing or professional or whatever. It's like you have probably a topic in mind or like a passion or questions or doubts, whatever. You have something that's like triggering you, and just go and like write it or film it or whatever you want to do with it. Like do it, and like be sure that no matter what you write, there will be people who will like it and people who won't. Like, point is like, okay, how does it feel for you? And then you can think about, okay, how do I manage to get more audience or whatever? But like, at first it's like something that will be good for you, who makes you feel good because you're creating something, and just start doing this. And when you start doing this, then you'll meet other people because you'll be like, okay, I want to understand more. I want to, like, we met, and as the way that I met people before launching, and I was like, what the f- am I doing? But it started because I had the first text and then a second, and I was like, yeah, I want to keep doing it, but it's useless if I don't share it. It's like, but just start doing it, and the rest will follow.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Showing and sharing.
Yeah, who's watching, right? It's for you, and people will come along for the ride if they want to, right?
Indeed.
Okay, thank you very much. So about that, and I specifically mentioned the date, for example, of the start of the newsletter.
Yeah.
If I am correct, that's more or less the time that you also graduated from uni?
No, it's even after. It's
a little bit after.
Yeah, it's after. Like I was older. Leaving uni, I was definitely not even thinking about writing about philosophy and stuff like this. I was like way.
But was it about
elsewhere.
the time you started working for your next
It's when
live mentor?
It's when I
ideas?
last changed cities. The last time that I went from a city to another one, and I was 25, 26.
Yeah.
Yeah, 26, almost 3 years ago. So I was working already since like few years.
Okay.
And I reached the point that I realized that I wanted something like a bit more intellectual that was not linked to work. Like something that I make the decision, I decide what I talk about, the way I do it, where I do it, the rhythm of the newsletter, etc.
Right.
That was the moment where I had space, like in my brain, to have ideas and commit to something.
Mm-hmm. And what were you working with at the time?
For like the company,
Yeah.
so I was working for Live Mentor, which is a French company, basically an online school for entrepreneurs, like 3 months one-on-one formation with a mentor. Could be any kind of entrepreneur because it's like all around, like learning to use social media or building a website, or all the like accountability and administrative stuff. Depends, you have like various formation. And my job was to mentor the mentors. So basically help them feeling good and doing good in their job. Same, I was also sometimes in contact with some entrepreneurs, mainly regarding insatisfaction, because obviously it happens. So like trying to figure out why is he disappointed, what's going on, what are the solutions we can put in place to make it better, if we can, because I mean, we also have like our way of doing things and a legal aspect to respect. But yeah, my job was to make sure that mentors and entrepreneurs were doing good during the formation.
Okay, very good. But you must have interacted with a lot of entrepreneurs during that period, and I'm guessing you learned a lot from them, even in terms of the business side. What were some of the big lessons that you learned throughout that journey?
That's a big question. If we're thinking really through like entrepreneurial point of view, I would say first of all is like just like start whatever project you have, just start and accept that it will never be perfect. And as we said just before, like start and start sharing and talking about it like with people around you. There is no way you're creating this like single genius idea that someone's gonna steal from. Like no, that like doesn't exist unless you're a fucking like scientific genius. And indeed, you have like this new formula, but
Yeah.
like no one will steal your idea. Like it exists already somewhere before.
Really?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like you will have your way of doing it, but like 99.5% of the ideas and the projects that exist in the world, they're not unique, but they still work because as entrepreneur, you don't need to sell to like tons of countries. You need like a small range of customers for you to be able to pay yourself because of that. Thanks. And that.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, I would say no one's gonna steal your ideas. Just share, talk about it. Will help you like moving forward. So yeah, so start. Not being afraid to share. No one's gonna steal your idea. Being curious, like go talk to people, exchange, get information. We have more and more like digital entrepreneurs, but like real world and project and connection happen in the real world. Like go to events, go meet people. Like that's what also gonna like give you the energy to keep going. If you're always like alone in your room behind your computer, at some point, like you may lose the reason of why I'm doing this. If sometimes you go, you see like you create some connection, you exchange about like success, about like defeats and like failures, and like you exchange ideas, and you go for a beer when it's not going all right, but you have your friends there and you go for a beer and you talk about it. Like, yeah, just go out and meet people, maybe people around this new area you want to explore.
Fair enough. There was a couple things that you touched on. You talked about a couple important traits that people have to do, certain habits that entrepreneurs have to stay mentally healthy, etc., etc. I was curious, you being a mentor, having worked in that environment for many, many years, I'm not going to say I don't know, I'm curious. Are you able, for example, to look at somebody, to get to know somebody and determine through specific personality characteristics or certain traits of a person on whether or not they could be a successful entrepreneur or no? Like, is there a set of characteristics like, oh, they have to be stubborn, but curious, but agentic, know what they want? Or is it like, oh, I've seen many entrepreneurs come into the business, they don't know anything, or, well, it's normal not to know anything, but, not have certain traits, and either they develop it or they don't develop it and they fail, or they succeed whether or not they have certain characteristics. Are you understanding what I'm trying to get here? Do you have any insights on that?
Yeah, I don't think there is like some people who can be successful entrepreneurs and some who can't. Like anyone, okay, mainly if you have like specific like mental health issue that I don't understand very well, but like stops you from like responsibilities or too much pressure or whatever. But if you don't have this, basically you can, in a way that I didn't say this the previous question, but maybe useful, that if you're going to start a project on your own, like get yourself mentors or like a formation or whatever. Like don't be on your own. And this makes it easier for anyone to be able to move forward, because obviously you're going to lack some qualities that can be useful at some point. Someone is going to be like not enough curious, then stick to the plan. Someone is going to be like going in every direction, doing tons of shit, but not the most useful one, or like whatever. And like this mentor facing you, or teacher, or like whatever you call it, is going to give you or like push you also to the part that you don't have. So like the point would be like, okay, anyone can do it, but find yourself mentors or classes or situation where you have someone who can balance with you and help you with the thing you're not doing. I don't know if you like commitment and regularity in the effort, maybe have like a buddy with who like you're literally like giving feedback on what you've done or what you're gonna do today. But yeah, finding those someones, probably several of them, to create the balance. But then yeah, obviously like curiosity, motivation, doing something that you like, would be like pretty useful skills
Right.
to start something.
Okay. What would be the more important characteristics or traits that entrepreneurs would need to either develop, or you see cause, or for example, the most common characteristics that cause the downfall of an entrepreneur, for example, especially a young one, for example, getting into and not knowing what entrepreneurship means, which was sort of another question, like what does entrepreneurship mean? So what are the characteristics that, I mean, you sort of answered that. If you just could name out a couple specific ones and then a couple negative ones, like it could, I know it's going to be along the lines of what you talk about, like, oh, he didn't go out enough, he wasn't curious enough, he didn't have any mentors around him, all those things. If you could just specify a little bit more, that would be amazing.
So among the good one, I mean, to my point of view, because once again, like probably there are tons of ways to be an entrepreneur and like be successful in what you do, but you need to be curious. You need to be like, to have like a, deep motivation. That's not, I'm going to win money. You do something because you believe something good's going to happen for you and people around you. So this motivation is crucial. The acceptance of like losing and failing and being imperfect. I mean, this one probably like every age compare, like there is always this like, it's not good enough, or people are gonna say this or this, like worst thing. Like accept that it's gonna be imperfect, and like when you're gonna look back at it, like in 6 months, you'll be like, wow, did I really do this? Because you'll have like move on since then, but it's gonna be the same scheme always. So not being afraid of like failure, obviously. Accept you're imperfect.
Yeah, that's really important.
I would say those are like the more critical, at least from what I saw.
Yeah.
You know, and people like struggling and what was the main question, it was a lot around those ones.
I mean, it even goes back to what we were talking about, the newsletter. Like, it doesn't matter if you start off and nobody cares or nobody tunes in.
And probably nobody will care at first. Like, I mean, that's the most like classic situation. First take first newsletter, like, okay, who's gonna be there? Like, no one is waiting on you. So probably nobody will care.
Yeah, I find it ironic, even for myself. It's like, okay, if you're starting something out and you're like, oh, I'm afraid nobody's gonna see my stuff, but at the same time, you're afraid that your stuff is not perfect. It's kind of paradoxical. It's like, well, if nobody sees your stuff, nobody can say your stuff is imperfect. So it's only you judging it, and it's just you in your mind getting like stuck and staying in that place and not moving forward. I like that a lot.
Definitely. Once again, that's when it becomes interesting to have people around you who know what they're talking about, because they're the one helping you to escape this like vicious circle. They're like, no, take the exit on the left and publish this fucking text.
Yeah, it's like reaching exit velocity and you shooting off. And then one of the last questions I wanted to ask about here was, what are misconceptions about entrepreneurship that people may have? Things that they might think is like, it's just clearly false. Like, oh, maybe it's easier, or it's supposed to be this, and in reality it's not.
It's wrong to say that it's going to be like, you're going to regain your freedom and do whatever you want with your own private like time schedule, whatever. Like, it is wrong, because you're going to like be in connection with companies and people who have also like time schedule and effort. So you'll have to deal with this too. It's not true that it's like easier than being an employee. I'm not sure it's true that it's more difficult neither. It would depend on the situation, how you feel at your job. What are your like qualities right now? Like, are you something that like comfort and like do your time but have like your time for yourself after that? Or do you need like to be like super committed to a project and like be 100% and move from there to there, which is not that good neither, even to be an entrepreneur. Like, keep 10-15% to do nothing and rest. But it's not going to be like more or less difficult. It's just going to be different. It's going to be way more complexity for you to deal with, because you're going to have like a lot of different jobs while doing this. I would say those are like big mistakes we can think about entrepreneurship. But once again, like it's gonna be very different for everyone. So just like go through it and talk with people. I mean, that's the best option you're gonna have to learn and avoid the big mistakes. Like you start super high, you have like first customer, whatever, or big audience, because you got it ready for months. So you knew how it's gonna work for like full months. And then you've got a bit this like in between timing where you don't know exactly, you don't have the same growth. And maybe you're gonna lose a bit hope or say, okay, damn, now I'm becoming shit because I'm not having like it's gonna be like this and maybe it'll be like this, then like it's gonna move every way. So just like be ready for that. There is not one clear path.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Do you have a certain relationship with like productivity? That's quite a common theme with entrepreneurs, like maximizing everything that you do. Like you said, work, nonstop, never take time for yourself. Personally, I know that you have a very interesting relationship with productivity. It's not, for example, mine, where it's like to-do list after to-do list, and I've also been changing that philosophy a little bit. Just explain a little bit yours to us, to me, to the audience.
Probably a few years ago, I don't remember exactly when or what. Maybe we had decided to make peace with like productivity. I'm like, that's fucking bullshit. Like productivity is like, how can I do everything that I want in a limited range of time? Like it works for like your day, for your afternoon, for your entire life. Like you won't be able, doesn't matter how much productive you are, you won't be able to do whatever you can think about. Like that's human paradox. And then I was like, okay, so anyway, I won't be able to do everything. And I know the best thing that I've done, or the thing that I do the best and that I'm the most proud of, is when I do it not being under pressure, like you need to finish now or you need like to do this. It's like when I go and I'm like for the newsletter, like no job, no time schedule, no whatever. I do it because I like it and I feel it's the right way. So I try to keep this for my private project and ideas and whatever. And when I was working, I mean, obviously you have to deal with productivity. Like some people are waiting on you, projects are waiting on you. And at this level, I was like, okay, what's the best that I can do? Okay, I can be efficient. So I can like try to find a way to focus, to let my phone out of range, to like not eat a double burger at midday, so I'm not digesting laying down for the whole afternoon. But I was like, I'm doing the best that I can with what I have now. And no, I'm not going to try to explore like 10,000 new productivity strategies. I've done it at some point. And I was like, okay, what's for? Like, what's the use of this? And it wasn't that useful in the end. So yeah, just trying to make peace with it. Like, okay, I want to make things. I want things to be done. I want people to be happy with what I've done. But I can do it without like trying to become the fastest guy on the planet.
Fair enough. Okay, so moving to the next topic, which is philosophy 4 of life. I'm curious, could you just give us a brief explanation or description of what you believe a philosophy for life is?
That's a big question. I mean, so probably some pretty smart philosopher have been thinking about it since years and years. I would say it is useful because it's a way to be more at ease with your choices and like be more comfortable with what you do with your life. So that's why, first of all, it's pretty useful. And basically it would be like having a main objective in your life and then having a set of like rules and commitment and values and strategy to help you go through it in a way that you feel is the right one. So if we're talking theoretically, this is what is a philosophy of life, I would say.
Yeah, I guess it would be like a guideline for the decisions that we make, how we make decisions, like you said, what we prioritize. I mean, you hear this a lot in like our modern, like self-help, wealth, entrepreneurship, book. Like, what is priority? Is it time? Is it money? Is it experiences? Is it family, friends, things like that? Happiness, all those like relevant topics. And I guess it's kind of like how you choose to make your decisions in the future. Okay, so tomorrow I have an offer or I have this coming up. I know that with the information that I have, using the criteria I use to make my decisions, what would my decision be? I think it's kind of like that. If you could get into it, like, what would your philosophy for life be? We've had some talks about that. Could you just share it really quick with the audience?
Yeah. I mean, my main objective now has been a few years, and it's going pretty well, is to live a happy life. Not in a way that I want to escape every bad news or bad situation that can happen, like will happen anyway, but in a way that dealing the best that I can with like negative emotions, so it doesn't like destroy me for like days or weeks or months or whatever happen, but then quickly get back to the situation where you're not under negative emotion mood and you're more like ready to make reasonable choice. And on the other side, having this ability to live the best from all those positive moments that I have, because like obviously there is a balance between the negative events and the positive ones. And trying to make the best of the positive one, and same with the negative one, but more in a way that, okay, I want to understand them quicker than before, so I can move on and just not stay 1 week doing nothing because this or this happened. So this would be the objective, the main objective. Then there are like many values or commitment or rules that we could talk about. Like, for example, I know that being curious and a bit less lazy, or at least bringing curiousness on top of laziness, was one of the switch that I had to do the last years, over the last year, to like go toward this way. So I try to keep curious. I made a lot of work also thinking about my friendship and like who were the humans I was spending the most time with. What were the conversation we had? Is there like some people I want to see more and talk with more? Like all those reflection on like, okay, what is making me feeling good and like moving forward or like peaceful, and what is a bit troubling and why is it troubling? So what can I do with this? So obviously relationship was like a big point of study, of interest, whatever we can call it. Then if we talk about like maybe commitments, it's a bit wide because like will evolve obviously with the time. I would say, for example, I try, when I talk about random topics with someone, I try to bring a positive perspective of it, because I'm pretty sure it's something that will bring something better than just like going the negative way and saying, yeah, that's shit and it's not that good and we cannot do anything. Okay, now we said this, what do we do? Just go eat ice cream or drinking beer, I don't know. But if you get like the positive perspective, maybe you start a positive conversation, like creating, even if it's like fully idealized and you go in a like dreamy way, okay, you create something like that's a little space of, okay, this is possible and like we can do something at our own level. Talking about the newsletter, talking about like insecure achiever, whatever. That's one way of taking a positive perspective of feeling bad or feeling this way and saying, okay, I'm going to make something of it. So I try to keep this. Obviously, I'm not doing it perfectly all the time. Obviously, sometimes I'm complaining, but I try to keep to this, like to stick to this and be like, I'm going to be the brand bringing the positive perspective.
And when did you start like thinking of like that idea of a philosophy for life? When did that concept come to you? And what moment? Maybe it was in a rough time. Maybe, like you said, maybe it was like a time you were feeling more lazy or you felt more down and you were like, something needs to change. I want to approach life differently. Could you just walk me through that a little bit? I don't know if that's possible, but
I think it was the beginning of this year that I had like at least like the concept of philosophy of life. Like obviously those questions like I asked myself before, like obviously I was thinking about this since few years now, so obviously I had it, but this concept of like, okay, having a main objective and then values and commitment and strategy to get to it. And then I was like, okay, I want to like appropriate myself this concept and do something with it. Probably the beginning of the year. I can't remember exactly what was it connected with. Like a book or a podcast probably about like Stoicism, because I know then I went to Aristotle Nicomachean Ethic. Is it how is it called? I don't know the name for sure in English, but Aristotle's book.
You can say it
It
in
was like
French.
perfectly this
You can say it in
L'éthique
French.
à Nicomaque.
Okay.
So I think Nicomachean Ethic. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, just digged into this one too, and it was like probably through this book that I really like. Maybe the first time that I was really reading a book from a philosopher who was like, okay, I'm gonna show you what's my philosophy of life and how I see how I see it.
Okay.
That was it, and I was like, I want to take this, I want to take this, maybe I can take this for me, this I don't want, and I try to understand. That's something I would love to do, like just take the time and like put it on paper. Like, okay, what's the main objective? What are the values? What are like the ranking of the values? Because at some point they will face each other. Like, okay, it's today. You can like go for a walk with friends in a place you don't know, or you can just like stay laying in the hammock in the garden and like having a fresh beer or Coke or whatever. You gotta choose between like adventure, curiousness, and laziness, and both of them like good answer. But which one's gonna win regarding the life that you want to have or the day you're in?
Yeah. Do you think that helps by writing it down? Does it not really
Yeah.
make a difference?
Yeah, definitely. Helps like because even the fact of thinking about it, you like, I don't know, makes it a bit more tangible in your brain. That's not one thought that you had one day. It's like this day you decided like to sit and be with yourself and be like, okay, I'm gonna try to express what's the most important for me. So it's a bit more like a milestone than just a thought among thousands of thoughts that we have.
True, but I feel like the priorities could change regularly. Not that they change order, but in accordance with certain time periods. One could take, the place over the other. I don't know, because like I feel like writing it down is good, but I do a lot of that. I do a lot of like the idea of like, okay, what is the most important thing to do today? That's not so much related to philosophy for life, right? But if you applied it to the philosophy of life, or like this is my ranking, the problem would be that number one would always win out, right?
I mean, you're not like committed to stick with the same ranking for your like 60, 70, 90 years of life. Like you can,
For sure.
you can make
But
it
day
evolve.
to day, but what about day to day?
I mean, on day to day, like it's good to have like a certain idea, but it doesn't mean you have to stick to it. I mean, just a very flexible guide that concerns you and how you want to interact with the rest of the world and with yourself. So you can make it evolve. I mean, 1st of January, I'm hungover. I'm definitely not gonna have the same ranking as another day in the year. Like obviously, I'm gonna be yes. I mean, this year, I woke up. It was like maybe 9, 10 o'clock. I had a headache. I was lazy, and I spent the entire day. I started Game of Thrones this day because I haven't watched Game of Thrones before. I just watched like 9 episodes in a row, ordering food twice, like midday and dinner, and then went to bed. And then, like, fair enough. Probably this day I needed this kind of like reverse ranking of the values and commitment. And at the same time, I guess if I think about it, it's been a few years that allowing myself some breaks and time out and this is part of my philosophy of life. I know that I need those time off to be able to have energy to meet new people, to go travel, to write, to listen to podcasts, to be like actively listening, I need those moments where I just disconnect my brain and like, or at least connect it in another way to be able to do this. So probably like this, have some break and allow yourself some break. It is also very high in the list.
Yeah, I guess it's quite flexible. I mean, the question does become how flexible are you with it, right? I guess depending on your philosophy for life, right? Some people live a very non-flexible philosophy for life, or I think it's interesting that I like to call it, and certain people call it philosophy for life. Other people call it just basic guidelines, right? A lot of successful people are like, oh, just build a list of priorities, and they call it that. So I hope that the audience understands that it's not some like, although it is a new or good concept, like it was significantly different than, you know, building a list of priorities. I think what's interesting there is some people decide, I guess, to be like, I'm going to just prioritize productivity, and they get certain results due to that. And I guess everybody makes their own decision. How flexible? Obviously, their own ranking, of course, that's number one. But then, how do they stick to that? Am I constantly going to choose the top 5 priorities every day? How does that change? How much allowance do I give myself? You know, so I think that's the interesting part of it all.
It is, I mean, it's the most important part is like, okay, start being conscious that you're making decision every day. And the first part is like, okay, why did I take this decision? Trying to understand what are the values and the things that are driving your choices. That's the first point. Maybe you take decision that you feel super good with, and your motivation also, you're like, yeah, I'm like super happy with what I'm doing. I mean, fair enough. But probably like going out of like university, starting working, whatever, it's been like maybe 10, 15 years we accumulate habits a bit unconsciously. Like you have habits when you wake up, maybe you're gonna have a coffee, some people watch their phone, some like started to practice meditation, whatever, but you have habits you've built along your childhood and being a young adult. Probably there are a lot of them you still have and you don't want them in your life anymore. Like, I don't know, the one of like waking up and like watching Instagram and having a coffee and going to work. I mean, question it, and maybe that's what you want because you want to have a little dopamine boost in the morning and your little like caffeine, so like you're super like tensed and ready for the day. Maybe you want to start a bit slower and like do something differently because you know in the morning you want to be like a bit more peaceful and help yourself moving like smoothly into the day. It depends, but at least you start questioning yourself on this and you're like, okay, what can I do to feel a bit better with what I'm doing?
Okay. And I know that we've talked about it, but do you have any plans for writing a book about the topic? You did suggest the idea. Now, as you say, it's very flexible. Maybe a year from now, it will be a priority. Maybe it won't. I'm curious about that for my personal self.
Yeah.
So yeah, how's that going?
Yes, indeed. Because we did Dry January with friends this year, and we went like for a little like a drink in January. So we had like, I don't know, ginger beer, whatever. And we're talking about life and our objective and that was the moment I think where I was reading a bit about philosophy of life. And I was like, okay, let's define our main objective for the day, for the year, and then we have to respect it either way. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen for those who don't respect it. And then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna write a book about like having a philosophy of life because I guess like super important and in my mind at this point it seems to be like really the starting point of we're gonna be able to live in a harmonious way as human and with the rest of the nature. I was like, this is really it. Like I need to write something because it will be the starting point. Then life happened and you do other thing and I have a pretty long text talking about it that I sometimes go back to and change a bit or think about the anecdotes or whatever and then just go back in the back of my Notion and I leave it there. And I don't know if it will still be a priority for like 2025, do it. But it is a project among others that exists that I give time from time to time. But most of all, it is still a topic that I'm talking about and reading about and listening about. So obviously, even if I'm not working on it very like proactively, I'm nourishing my brain with like ideas and new perspective will nourish this. So let's say, yeah, that's a half project, half a bit like gardening. I planted the seed and we'll see if the seeds grow.
Okay, good point. All right. Well, we got a big topic coming up. Not more important than all the ones we talked about, but a different one that we talked about recently, very recently, within the last 2 weeks. It's microdosing.
Yes.
More specifically, we were talking about mushrooms or psilocybin.
Yeah.
In this case, what's microdosing?
It's a practice of like taking a very small amounts of a substance for a certain period of time to have the benefit of what the substance is doing. Yeah, basically that's it, but without having the macro effects. Take psilocybin example. If you macro dose on mushroom, you're probably gonna see some like brighter colors or maybe like some movement and shapes, and like you're gonna have like very different perception of life. If you microdose on mushroom, you won't have this. Basically, it would be like taking a sip of beer one morning out of two. You won't be drunk, but you would have like some molecules of alcohol in your blood. I don't know, a bit like the movie. I don't know how is it called in English. In French, it's drunk. It's like the guys who drink alcohol like regularly, just a small amount, to live in this happy mood always, and turns not that good in the end. But yeah, talking a small amount of something.
Here I have it defined, at least this is what research online says, about 5 to 10% of the full dosage of psilocybin.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting. At least what I found is it works within, it's a pretty quick acting, substance. I think it's like 30 minutes, right? And that's what I've read about, 30 minutes, and it goes 2 to 3 hours as a half-life, and then it stays in your bloodstream for some time. Why did you start taking it?
Why did I start? Big question once again, but that's a topic I talked about a lot with Luca, one of my best friends, and he has done it several times before, and his best friend too. So we were talking about it, and he's also in the same like mood of questioning life and like, okay, how am I gonna go through life? What's the best way for me like to deal with my relationship, with my job, blah, blah, blah. So he's like very curious and like, this kind of little scientist of your life, like try things to see what's working or not. And so he told me about this, and I think him talking to me about this, I was like, damn, me too. I wanna see, I wanna try it, I wanna take notes, I wanna check how it works. Also, if you do it properly, that you respect also some kind of rules. During the period you're microdosing, you're not gonna drink or smoke or whatever. So this is also like kind of a free, like a little gift for your body to be like, okay, I'm gonna leaving you like super like clean and soft for a month, 2 months, and you just have this like psilocybin microdose. So there's like a whole like experience that made me like super curious and like, okay, I want to do it and I want to see what's going on.
What would you say to people who are like very doubtful, very skeptical towards any kind of drugs? For example, I'm not doubtful or skeptical, but I've never done any, so I'm very like, okay, is it something I want to get into? I mean, it also has normally a lot of prejudice for some people, like, okay, drugs are this and they have a certain usage or purpose. And microdosing seems like a lighter kind of influence, but it's also like, it's like a gray line, it's not like, okay, you're not doing, hardcore drugs or any of the other more hardcore psychedelic stuff, like whatever, it's heroin, all those things, right? What would you, if somebody approached you and were like, well, I don't feel so comfortable, or I'm not too into that, what would you say to that? Do you have anything? I'm not saying be pro or against, or I'm pro or against, just like what would your response or way of addressing it be?
That's not for everyone. Like obviously you've got like medical condition that's probably your doctor will tell you like, no, don't go through it and like stay away. In this particular case, like just don't go and go away. Like, I mean, that's not the good point. And it's not being for or against. I mean, it's trying to understand what could be the impact on yourself, and like, do you want to go through it or not? There is no obligation, and like, this is not the only way to go through like a specific period of time where you try to focus on yourself and see what's going on in your brain. That's one experience you can do. It happened that it works with like psilocybin or LSD, that are like substances that have been considered like drugs and dangerous and like evil for years.
Yeah.
And now we realize they may not be that evil if you learn how to use them and that you are someone who can benefit from their use. And I mean, that was also something that made me curious. Like, okay, this evil stuff, and it's not that evil if you look at like the studies and you realize there are like some probably super nice impact of it. And like, I don't know, I've not been like always fully committed to respect the rule. So probably it also played the role like, okay, I'm going to do this thing that is a bit like outlaw. And I was like, I don't care.
Yeah. I guess the interesting point would be people would be asking, well, why should I try it? Like if it's semi considered evil, okay, besides the fact that I want to break the rules, why should I try it?
I mean, you should try if you're curious about it and you're not afraid of. Like if you're like, it doesn't interest me or I'm afraid of this, I mean, don't go for it. There's no point. This is not a roller coaster and then you'll be happy. No, it's like way more. It is still a commitment, and you still like digesting some drug, something that has an effect on your brain, even on small dosage. So yeah, don't go if you
we
like
talked
not sure,
about
don't
it
go.
and we got into the point that you said like it piqued your creativity. You said before like it kind of gave you like a different awareness. I was talking with Teresa yesterday.
Yeah.
I told her that one of our topics on today's podcast would be microdosing, and she's like, "Oh, so you do microdosing?" And I was like, "No, I don't." And she's like, "Oh, very interesting. Okay." And she's like, "Why not?" I was like, "Oh, I just like never done drugs, and I'm not really interested in it, at least for the time being." But me and Hugo were talking about it, and even Finn was saying, "Okay, well, it brings out your creativity, neuroplasticity, like these key words, which are very tempting for people to get into, right?" And so I looked into it and I was like, okay, is this really true? And even Teresa said like, oh, when I took it, it seemed like I matured a lot. I became aware of a lot of things. So it feels like, I don't know if a hack is the right word.
Actually, I
It feels
started
like a
my
hack.
newsletter when I was on
Yeah.
microdosing. Like, that's the moment, at least not the moment that I sent it, but the moment that I wrote probably the first 3 episodes. And then I was like, yeah, I need to do a newsletter and I will share it with people and it's going to be amazing. This happened during this time. Okay, what's the part of the mushroom? What's the part of just being in the mindset of creating something and do things differently? And what's the part of not drinking and not smoking? Obviously, it's tough to say what is due to exactly the psilocybin or not, but it happened during this time. And I had like only one big project like this in my life and happened at this time. So maybe it played a role at
Well, it
some
helps
point.
with fear reduction, right? Which is what you're talking about, the reduction of fear. So I did a bunch of research because I was like, I want to see whether this really makes sense. I mean, for myself. And
Yeah.
there's another topic related to this, which is supplement taking, like all those minerals, vitamins, but then also like ashwagandha and things like that. That might be for another episode or my episode with Finn. But at least what I found
He
here.
knows better than me about
Yeah,
this.
Finn's very into the supplements. I will discuss with him about that. But here, at least it said there were 2 types of studies done. There's not a lot of articles, but there's some, at least that have specific results. And they had 2 types of studies. One was self-reported studies. Well, both were self-reported studies, but one was not lab, or it was an open study. So both the participants and the researchers knew what the results were supposed to be. So, okay, we're testing the effects of microdosing on creativity, let's say. In those, they found that people, well, they reported a couple things. One was improved mental health.
Yeah.
We'll get into that in a little bit. You talked about it. It's reduced substance use. So, like, for example, no alcohol, no other kind of
If you do it
drugs.
well, probably some people are doing in a very like wild ways and keep doing whatever they do next to it.
Maybe.
But probably you lose all the
But
effects.
here it said at least they reduced substance use. Reduced mind wandering. So maybe like more focused, like people, because normal people will get distracted and that kind of like takes them out of their mind a little bit. But I'll get into that and why that happens in a bit. And then more nature related, like more interested in nature and environment and things like that, well-being, mentally and physically, and improved creativity. Mind you that this is like an open study. So like I said, where the participants knew what they were being tested for. So the placebo effect is much bigger, which is if you gave them a placebo, they would still register the fact that they supposedly improved creativity. Or even if they didn't improve creativity and they didn't take a placebo, they would think that they improved creativity. So they did
Yeah.
the same study, different people, but it was closed, so the participants didn't know the results. And some things stayed the same, for example, improved mental health, mental mood, things like that, better social connection, enhanced emotional, more, some of those things were same, but they didn't register improved creativity, which was one of our main topics.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any comments on that.
No, I mean, it's not surprised that there are like few differences between both of them, but I guess that's maybe if funny that is like mainly creativity that's changed because this is something that's also a lot in your mindset. Like, do you believe you can create something? Do you allow you sometimes to create, or do you avoid it? Like, and probably the mindset also plays a huge role in this. So obviously, better, like, I don't know if it's better results in the open study, but result higher, and makes sense because when you know what's supposed to come, you're also way more committed to go this way. So like probably you go higher if you like go for it. And once again, I guess creativity is like probably way more, I don't know, that's something you decide and you allow yourself to be or not, more than focus or whatever that is maybe a bit more
I mean,
instinctive.
I kind of subscribe to the idea that creativity is natural for everyone unless you have like a mental problem. And so my opinion, and then I'll go into a little bit of the scientific reasons why, but I think my opinion is, like I said, I feel like it's a hack, maybe very useful in today's world where we grow up so addicted to like social media and we kind of lose the creativity through the education system, through just the way we grow up. We get older, we stop being so childish, and being childish is, not, it's related to creativity, being, trying different things, being curious about different things, having crazy ideas, or what people would classify as crazy. And then you grow up and people are like, oh, that's dumb, or that's silly, or that's unrealistic. And your creativity gets dimmed down by what society says. And for that reason, I think I'm quite interested in like the effects of microdosing. I think it's like a shortcut to building self-awareness and awakening a different side of you. I didn't particularly need that, even though I could have, and I'm sure for certain people maybe that helps make that transition faster, getting out of this modern world and social media and everything that boggles our mind. I think you could just go into nature, or I quite am into the idea of just like letting your mind be bored, and then your mind starts being more creative, finding itself, asking itself questions. So that's quite interesting. There's very chemical like explanations for this. We also mentioned the word neuroplasticity in our conversation with Finn, and how it helps your mind be more adaptable. That's even less proven than creativity. There's only like one study I found online that was like, okay, because of certain receptors in our mind, it allows us to activate and like adapt our prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think like related to that, we talked about it before, like the reduction of anxiety. We didn't really say anxiety, but the improvement of our mental health, because it reduces anxiety, our mental depression, like symptoms. It's quite proven, and studies are shown that it's related to like serotonin receptors, and so a lot of the things, and a little bit also dopamine receptors, and so it makes us feel good about ourselves. And for that reason, I think people feel like they're happier, they feel like they're more creative, because I think they've gone more back to a natural way of being with their body and receptors. And one thing specifically that interested me here was the fact that we have something called the default mode network in our mind. Do you know of it?
No.
Yeah?
Yeah, basically the thing you do without questioning, you just like go for it. That's your number one answer that you've registered for the past years, decades, whatever. And so you go toward this move because that's the move you do.
Yeah, sort of, but it's
Is
like
it?
when our mind is free, like, and it's just resting, it normally goes to other thoughts. Like before, when we were in our intermission, like my mind, just kind of wandered.
Okay.
And it limits your brain's like wandering, so you don't go sad, you don't get anxious, you lose kind of like your stressful symptoms, and then that's why you feel better about yourself and you feel more positive, and I think that's why a lot of people do it. But yeah, is there anything more you'd like to share on the topic?
But microdosing, I mean, as you said, like that's one path, that's one way of like going through a specific kind of like mood and questioning that is a bit different than before. That's one of them. Like it's going to be the good one for certain. It's going to be like the worst one for others. Definitely, that was a good experience for me. That's something I plan to do again. I guess that's a nice moment to give myself some space, to cut also like from like every other things like alcohol, smoking, whatever, like cut off from it. So make me feel good, obviously.
Yeah.
And it works well. So I was like, okay, maybe I should do it from time to time, in order to like keep being in movement and not just stick to what I do since 3 years and be like, okay, maybe there are other things, maybe I need like to push myself a bit more, like try to see things a bit differently or whatever. Like there are many reasons for me to be like, that's something I want to do again. I wrote a full text about it, like explaining what happened, etc. But yeah, that's definitely something that I would like recommend to everyone, like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. That was a very interesting experience for me. I love to talk about it and like answer questions when people are curious about it. But that's not something I would say like you should do this. I would say this about taking breaks. I would say like take breaks, like take time off. Know that everyone needs it. Microdosing, I would not be that sure that it's good for everyone.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of negative effects. I didn't really think they were like important for today, so I didn't really like research all of them. But yeah, there's the normal negative effects of psychedelic drugs on people, right? Some people lose control.
Microdosing, you're very far away from losing control or whatever. Like it's like literally one sip of beer. You won't get drunk even if you're 2 years old and to have this one sip.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I know I have a colleague who tried to do it, and like because it is mushroom, it goes right into like, your belly. That's where it happened, and it gave him like stomach pain. So he stopped the microdosing because it wasn't good for him. Like nothing mentally that wasn't fitting well with the mushroom, but it was the stomach. It was like, bro, what are you doing? I don't want to do this. And so for him it didn't work. So yeah, everyone gonna have his own like relation or not with microdosing.
Yeah, some people might not also feel the effects because it's not sub-perceptual, but it's sub-psychedelic, I think. So it's like a small effect, and some people might just be like, well, that didn't do anything on me, and some people might, really feel the symptoms and gain some advantage from it. So yeah, that for now is our last subject for today's episode. And I normally like to ask, I have a list of like different questions that I can possibly ask at the end of each episode that I do have. We talked about philosophy for life, so I'm not going to ask that again. That might be a question for somebody who we don't have that discussion with. For you, I think my question for you would be, because we do a lot of reading, we do a lot of writing, I'm quite into reading, and it would be like, if you could recommend one book, I think you have a very different book selection than, for example, me, which is good. It's a positive thing, and that's why I'm asking this question. If you could just recommend one book, like you get stuck on an island, like all by yourself, and you can only live with one book for the rest of your life, or you could only recommend one book. You meet some young person, and it's the only time you're gonna ever see them in your life, and you're like, buy me one book. I have 20 euros. Buy me one book. Whoa. What would it be to change your life to whatever? I know it's a complicated question.
It's a tough one.
I'll give you time. There's no wrong answer, so say what you would like.
That would probably, can I cheat and give like several answers?
You're welcome to give various views.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I would say, like, obviously regarding like individual experience, past experience, when I read the book Hippie from Paulo Coelho, I was like maybe 17 or 16, or I don't know, it was like teenager, end of being a teenager. And I loved this book, like this kind of going out of the clear path and explore, and like it's going a bit in different direction, like triggered something within me. and I still love this book. Probably I have like a sentimental connection feeling with this book. So this one, we have a book in French. I'm not sure it exists in English though, because it's a French author, Frédéric Lenoir, a philosopher too, who wrote a book about Spinoza's life and his philosophy. And I would say this one, regarding philosophy of life and like positiveness and how it works in your brain, like honestly Spinoza, like probably like the goat of the philosopher if you ask me. I'm not fully agree with like everything. I don't fully agree with everything that he says.
Right.
But there are many stuff I agree with, and I could understand Spinoza because this guy made a book way easier to read than read the Ethic of Spinoza, which is like just like wide book, like super complex to read.
Right.
One day I'll go through it, but for now it has been this book who like made me click on it.
Okay. Any others? Is there any other two great suggestions?
I will stick with those two ones because if not, we're gonna like build a library, and that's not the point of the question.
Awesome. Okay. Next question would be, I kind of found this would be funny, but if you could leave like a question or a thought for the next guest, what would it be?
Okay.
Give me a question or a thought, like ask yourself this, or just a thought like this. I'll be writing it down.
What's the last time you created something? When is the last time that you created something?
Like, yeah.
When?
Like unique or?
Just when like he will or she will have his own understanding of the question, but when is the last time you created something?
What's the reason for that question specifically? Just curious.
I'm pretty convinced that creating is something that makes us like feel good. Whatever you create, a dinner, a moment, a discussion, an art, a text, whatever, but creating something makes us feel good. And there are many moments in our life when we are creating and we don't even realize. But once again, like cooking, you're creating something, and something pretty important because you're gonna like feed yourself with it. When you like make different people meeting together and start asking certain questions or others, like you're creating a moment and you're creating a link between those persons. Like realizing all those moments where we create something is something that I find like pretty fulfilling and satisfying, and like gives you energy to keep creating stuff in an even more conscious way. So
okay, awesome. I like it. I really do like it. Anything you want to ask or anything you would like to say?
No, I'm just super happy we shared this together. Thank you, Jason. And I don't know if I will watch the replay because I hate hearing myself. But yeah, hope you like it, and see you very soon.
Yeah, now you understand the pain of somebody producing content and then have to watch it over and over, edit and everything.
I already have to read myself times and times, so I won't look at myself.
Yeah. Okay, so where can people find you if they want to know more about you, they want to look at your newsletter, where can they go?
I'll give you the link from my Substack, and basically that's the main place you can find me. Okay. It's like every 2 Thursday on your mailbox, so like feel free to answer. Like that's one of the best point of having these newsletters, like the talks going on after an email, or sometimes when I meet people like in real life, and then you switch directly to this like nice topic, and you can join me there.
All right, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope to have you back.
Yes, it will be my pleasure.
Okay, see you.